He's getting revenge for what our parents did to him.
I get those goosebumps every time.
Oh my God, we're murder Nepo babies.
Hey, Den of Geek fans, Aaron Sagers here, and it is New York Comic Con 2023, and we're in the Den of Geek studios, powered by eBay, and I am joined by the producers behind the new Disney Plus series Goosebumps, which is a 10-episode series that kicks off today, Friday the 13th. Very excited about it. So, guys, I want to hear from you. First off, I want to talk a little bit about, like, scary stories and young adults, because it seems like in recent years we've lost the thread that younger audiences can get into horror and get into scary stories. So why is it time to bring it back? To scare the young audience members out there. Why is it time?
I loved being scared as a kid. I love being scared as an adult. It's a safe way to experience something that is, you know, when you experience something frightening. I mean, one of my earliest memories was actually going to the Haunted Mansion at Disney World when I was like 7, and my brother was younger than me, and the room started to stretch, and I started to scream and scream and scream and scream, and then they pulled me out of the room, and suddenly I was in offices, and I was like, oh, that was safe, that was dumb. Then my brother bragged about how it wasn't scary for the rest of the day. So that was, I don't know. So one of my earliest experiences was a horror experience with Disney, and it was great.
I mean, early Disney, I remember Something Wicked This Way Comes. Oh, that was a scary adaptation of Ray Bradbury's story. And it seemed like Disney really loved
Black Cauldron.
Well, even Black Hole had some like scary stuff to it.
Black Hole was terrifying, It was awesome.
So do you feel like you're kind of leaning into this old school legacy of Disney by bringing the scares back with Goosebumps?
I've always loved scary stuff as a kid too, and I would read about like ESP hauntings and poltergeist, and then have to go and put it in the laundry room. And I think that when you're a kid, everything is scary. I mean, life is scary. You don't know anything, and so it's so fun to play with that, you know, in this show of like all of these terrors and stuff, which is really just the experience of being a teenager at all.
And Connor, let me throw it to you. Like, when you're approaching Goosebumps, for you, what were some of the things that you thought were challenges in bringing these stories into 2023?
Sure. Well, I mean, there's obviously such a rabid fan base for it. Like, I grew up reading the books. My daughter now reads the books. So I think the biggest challenge probably was to make sure that we were honoring the series in a way that fans would appreciate it and love it as well. And I think that we did. And it was great to have RL Stine kind of actively engaged, and he sort of read some scripts and was watching cuts and stuff. So when he blessed it, we kind of knew we had something exciting on our hands.
It's a book series that everyone loves. And there's a lot of cynicism that comes when you're doing a reboot or a remake of something. So I think we really thought about that when we were developing it, is that everyone's going to come in with some preconceived notions about what Goosebumps is. And so I think we really wanted to subvert expectations. So people who loved the original books would like see things that they liked, but also there were a lot of surprises for new people also.
Rob and Nick, for this kind of franchise, like, there's obviously teen horror it's a subgenre of horror all unto itself. But with these characters, what kind of made them different or special compared to some of the other tropes we've seen out there before? Because clearly within Goosebumps, we do have the smart kid, the jock, we have a bit of the rebel. But what makes these characters different within Goosebumps?
They reflect teenagers of today in a way that, you know, maybe the books were written with much younger kids, middle schoolers, and we aged everything up. And it seems to us, we both have teenagers. This generation doesn't have the same hang-ups that previous generations have, and they all hang out with each other in a different way. So it's not like the jocks only hang out with the jocks type of thing. We wanted to reflect that and build kind of an honest, relatable teenage experience, and then couch it with, you know, demonic possession.
Yeah, I mean, I wanted my daughter to watch it and say, yes, I recognize my life in that, and not say like, Dad, you really screwed this up. So we're just trying to reflect what, you know, kids are going through right now.
And also just to kind of add to what Rob is saying is that with the teenagers being more reflective of teenagers today, the parents are too, because a huge part of the series are the parents and their story. And parents and teenagers will talk to their parents about things that I would never talk to my parents about. They're more open, and that's part of what our story is about, is a mystery as these kids try to get to know who their parents are and uncover who their parents are, which is such a relatable experience. And so we're also showing that different relationship.
Yeah, I like that we have sort of the sins of the parents are being revisited upon the kids, and we also have this suburbia. It harkens back to A Nightmare on Elm Street and a lot of the great horror of the 1980s. Obviously, you guys knew what you were doing with that. Was that anything that you got pushback on, that we're going to be kind of channeling those past horror as well?
No, I mean, I think it's part of the DNA of the Goosebumps series of the books, and so we were just trying to, you have to respect your source material when you're working with, something as popular as Goosebumps, something as good as Goosebumps. And so we, it's part and parcel of it. Like, most of those books do take place in suburbia, and they do take place in that milieu.
You bring up those classics. The books gave us license to play with different subgenres of horror, which we had a lot of fun with in the show. So there's gross out horror, there's ghost stories, there's psychological thriller style, there's the suburbia, the Halloween vibe. So, we were playing with all those types of horror genres that we grew up
They
with.
didn't let us do a Dead Ringers episode.
But you kept pitching it.
I kept pitching it.
You pitched it so
many
hard.
times. And they were like, no.
Yeah, why is
that's
that?
not appropriate for the viewership. And I said, but
We got to. But the books
But
were
now
also
you're pitching it.
the books
pitching
were
it again.
also
Exactly.
in addition to the sort of horror subgenres, the books were also super funny. And that was important to us as well. We all kind of come from a comedy background or think of things through that prism. And so it's important to us that there be levity with these and that there be jokes. And there's sort of a similar rhythm with scares as there are with laughs. It's sort of tension, surprise. And so we were trying to kind of honor that as well and kind of, dance between those two genres throughout, which was also really fun.
Something that's really effective, I think, throughout this series is that fans of Goosebumps are going to recognize things that are taking place or call-outs. And it's also very approachable to people that have not watched Goosebumps, and I think also tracks with a teen audience. And I guess the question I'm building up to is, as you're figuring all these things out, what is the balance between Easter egg and homage versus totally fresh, novel takes on the material established by RL Stine? I mean, creatively, anyone can dive in on that.
I think we crafted the stories first, got the characters down first, and just tried to tell the best story. Combination of fun and horror, and get all that. And then we started to pepper in things, and things came in organically as well. And we can't really tell you because it'd be giving everything away, but. We could list out all the Easter eggs, but then it would be no fun.
But also, our tone is
Yeah.
while it's funny and hopefully scary, but our tone is pretty earnest. It's not. We're not winky. It's not. There's certainly. It's beyond homages to the books. It's based on a bunch of the books. So but it's not a winky thing, or it's not a breaking the fourth wall thing, and it's not. We're not being self-referential. I don't think.
Yeah.
And a lot of amazing horror is that way. Like that's like an amazing thing that I don't understand how people do it, and I think is awesome, and I'm a fan of it. But that's just not our tone for this, at least.
But we embraced a lot of the totems.
Yes.
Of the books. Like
totally,
we
totally.
kept
the story.
grabbed.
The first half of the season are pulled, like the stories are pulled directly from some of those popular books. So for the first 5 episodes, each of the characters are all experiencing something that's pulled from one of these books. But in between the horror stories, it's all teen drama, right?
Yeah.
That's totally original. So you're following all these characters dealing with stuff that any high school kid would deal with. And so even if you haven't read the books and don't really know what the Haunted Mask is or the Cuckoo Clock of Doom, you're still following these kids in high school and what they're doing. And that should be hopefully just as entertaining as like all the horror stuff. And then the back half of the season, everything kind of comes together and we're pulling from Goosebumps books throughout the whole canon.
One of the things I have to bring up in this interview is Slappy the Dummy. He's sort of like Batman's Joker, except in the Goosebumps franchise. And
That's a secret, by the way. We're not telling anyone he's in the show.
It's just on billboards.
It's just on billboards, yes. This is a character that we've now seen adapted into films. We've seen adapted in the miniseries, obviously comes from the books. So lots of different iterations on this character, and you kind of have to do it. And you always have to kind of add that fresh spin on it. Was that a given from the beginning that, okay, we've got to work Slappy in there, and here's how we're going to approach this in a fresh way?
It kind of bubbled up as we were cracking the mythology. It wasn't,
we had it in the, we were writing the pilot, but we kind of had it as a trajectory for the show. And yeah, it's hard to do Goosebumps without having that guy involved in it. I mean, he's the Thanos of Goosebumps, right? Is that the right translation at Den of Geek? The Thanos of
Thanos works, yes.
Just looking around all the comic books. But yeah, so I think for us, we wanted to have a deeper dive on Slappy.
He's the Rachel Weisz of Dead Ringers.
Rachel Weisz.
Is that good?
No, I think you should keep all day long. You should just
keep bringing it back.
Keep bringing it back to what you really wanted to do.
Which is a third version of that.
Finally, because RL Stine did sign off on this and offered a lot of support on this, I'm sure he allowed you a lot of creative liberty, but what was a note that he did give the creative team?
I mean, you said it to me when we were developing it, and this I think was from the movie. But he said that the core of his books are "Be careful what you wish for," and that to me is such a strong idea, and it makes it different. Like the stories we're telling, it's not like it's not a family moving into a creepy house and stuff happens to them. These are active characters who are trying to achieve something, and maybe it's something that they want but don't necessarily need, and that's what causes the horror to happen. It's not, and I think that's true of his books too. These are all characters that are be careful what you wish for, really.
And the great thing about those books, the thing I appreciate a lot, and we tried to do with the show, is he never pandered down to a younger reader. Those books are, they're like Stephen King books, but accessible to younger readers. So we took that to heart, never pander down. And he also, he would balance, comedy and horror in a grounded way, and that also tonally worked really well for the show.
Yeah. Very cool. Well, we've got Goosebumps 5 episodes drop today, Friday the 13th, and it's episodic following that. I'm looking forward to it. Great series, guys. I appreciate it. Thank you.
So much.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Thanks.